Good evening, Bucs fans. Welcome to Bucs Report, the aftermath. Got one of your co-hosts here, AJ Turnup, and then we got my man Slick over here, the British guy who's always fly and always on standby. How you living tonight?
Oh yeah, I like that. You keep adding to that introduction. I love it.
I mean, because it is what. Look, man, you're a
It
fly
is what
guy.
it is.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
you're my bro host.
Yes, and guys, you are filled. Stay tuned. We got a full packed discussions tonight. We got to talk about, of course, Mike Evans with the extension. Look, we can never not talk about Evans because he's just that guy. Then we got to do the Bucs quarterback
I
situation.
do.
The Jags. We have a special guest coming in. We'll let him tell you who he is, and then of course we'll talk about a little bit of OJ, a throwback player that should still be on this roster, and plenty more Buck ball to talk about because next month officially we will be getting into that preseason and yeah. So, but everything else is going all right with you, Slick?
Yeah, we're smack bang in the middle of the season. We got rivalry game against Birmingham. So that we, or as you guys call it, is Birmingham. We say Birmingham. You say
Yeah,
Birmingham.
yeah.
We say Birmingham. Right in the heart of
Nice.
the country. So yeah, this is a big one. These two teams do not like each other whatsoever. I've been told of like how bad it is. And the interesting spice to this is since my old team has died off,
Yeah.
a lot of the players got split into two, and they either went to the Birmingham Bulls or they went to the Sandwell Steelers. So
Oh, so it's going.
this will be an interesting one.
Oh,
We're calling it the Night Bowl.
yeah, it's gonna be some animosity. I like that.
Yeah.
Look, that's the fist. That's the fist may fly bowl. That's what you got to call it.
Oh yes.
Yes, sir.
Be
But
ready to go get Snoopful and put someone on their ass.
I can dig it. All right. Well, look, man. Which topic we got to start with first? Of course, we still got to talk about Evans again.
I think we start off with Evans because Evans was like top of the draw, top of the
Yeah.
board. You know, I called this straight off the bat. I
Yes, you
remember
did.
saying this a couple of weeks ago that don't worry about Mike Evans. He's not going to get when we're talking about trade talk, and I was like, he'll be signing another deal with Tampa. I thought it was going to be to free up the cap, but it looks like they moved other players' contracts, which is interesting. But it also means it's going to be very difficult to sign other people next year because you have to now. The Buccaneers with the void years. I mean, I'll go and have a look at. I'll have a proper look at it in a minute. With the void years that they've added to both Tristan Wirfs and
Antoine Winfield.
Antoine Winfield Jr., that means they have to sign them because if they don't, they owe them fake money, which counts against the cap. Like it's not money they owe them as players, but it'll be money that counts against the cap. So it's invisible money. Like we were two players that we are technically against the cap for are Will Goulston and the other D lineman Hicks.
Yes.
So I think that was a total of like almost 8 million. So it's something they've got to be careful. It's got to be careful. What I think it does is like they said, we're going to re-sign you guys anyway. So like
Yes.
they could have bad seasons and they probably will still get re-signed.
Oh, absolutely. But this
That's
is
where
why.
they're at.
Yeah, and this is why this draft was very important because the Bucs know that they're going to have to save money down the line, and they're hoping that these guys turn into some premier players, or most importantly, just consistent starters. You have consistent starters, you don't really have to worry about free agency, no matter what, and it builds a better unit. I think we'll be fine in that case. But yes, Mike Evans, we knew he was going to get the bag. We all said this. But for all you people out there who thought you were smart and was saying that Evans is going to get traded, how are you guys feeling now? I wish we could bring certain people.
I've got a couple of these on receipt, and I will call them out on the internet. I'm not a call out type of guy, but I want to call this shit out because it's like I hate when people say things like, Mike Evans. I think the one I sent you was Mike Evans will get traded by July 12th or whatever.
Yeah.
Don't tell me I didn't told you so or something like that. And I was like, okay, well, I screenshot this and I'm gonna fucking reply back to this. That this clown's going to get his fucking receipt, because I wonder how many times he's made declarations like that about other players across the league, gets it wrong, but he'll get one of those right and he'll hang his hat up on it going, see, I fucking told you.
Now
Yeah,
all of
we
a
only
sudden,
hang our hats on facts, and I always say when I said to you about the whole Mike Evans, I said it was a feeling. I think he will. This is what's going to happen. I didn't say it will happen because I don't have a fucking crystal ball.
yeah, I say this. I figured because the Bucks in the past, they're trying to learn from their past. The way that the Bucks did Derrick Brooks back in the day, that was a disgraceful way of how they conducted business. So I think Jason Light also takes that into consideration. A guy like Evans who has been loyal, and more than loyal, he's a productive player. You're not going to get rid of a guy who's still productive. A lot of people don't realize Evans is just pushing 30. He's he's
Mm-hmm.
he's just been in the league so long.
Got a minimum 2 years of eliteness, a
Yeah,
minimum.
I say minimum, but I give him 3 because now
Mm-hmm. No, I
especially
agree.
with the mobile quarterback.
And
Let's
I think he's
say,
going to sign a 3-year deal, because if you sign a
yep,
3-year deal,
yep,
if he does drop out,
mm-hmm,
I mean, they probably won't. I doubt they'll go down the line of cutting him, because it all depends on contract numbers and stuff. But you know that Mike Evans will shuffle the puppies for him and let them. Like, he'll take a salary of fucking 2 million. He'll take more than that, but he'll allow them the
absolutely,
flexibility. Yeah. So
yeah,
the amount that they probably owe him in cap space, not money. They don't owe him in any money. They always make sure he got his money. But
yeah,
how much he owes them in, like, from, if you would say every million's a favor, Mike Evans owed a lot of favors, so he could
and
probably take those to the bank and still live off them to a degree.
facts.
Because
But
you
we're
can argue that
yeah,
Super Bowl team may not have existed had Mike Evans not took what the help the restructures and things that he's done. He's been a one-on-one team player from the moment he set foot in this building. You
yep.
know,
No, you're absolutely right. And the Bucks don't go to the Super Bowl without Evans. Think of it, every playoff game, there was a critical moment that Evans was a part of. Washington, that hell of a catch that Brady threw over his head and he caught it. We're not the Saints game. He caught the ball over Marshawn Lattimore. Then Green Bay started it off right in the Super Bowl, longest reception of the entire game. You keep guys like that around. Now, I just want to talk to the people because here's what gets me. So, you got people out there says, I don't see the hype about Evans. Then why the hell would we trade him? You see where they contradict themselves.
yeah.
So if he's not,
Some people are like, oh yeah, he's an elite player. And then in the same tone, you got another group of people going, well, he's not that good. And they're like, well, then why would you talk about people trading up for a player?
people
Like,
don't know what the hell they're talking about. People just, it's the simple fact we've already talked about. He's not exciting, and he's not a loudmouth person. He has a Rondé Barber. I lead with my actions, and I'll talk a little bit, but I like to get my players hyped. He's not Odell. He doesn't have the flamboyancy. And
no, he gets angry, but
yeah,
he doesn't get frustrated when he's getting the ball. He tends to look a little bit more bemused or a bit I've never seen him lose his shit
yeah,
because he's not getting the ball or he's getting poor balls. I mean, I've seen him cast weird like looks at Tom, like, what was that, man? But
yes.
that's about it. Yeah, I've not seen him like going, "You gotta feed me the ball." There's never been that mentality with him, and
No, he wants to win.
that's a brilliant thing to have in a team, because it also means you can bring in other guys and this guy's not going to complain. Which, let's face it, when you're trying to build a championship team, when there's going to come a point where some of these divas that go on teams and what have you, and they build up another, like Cincinnati won't get it because they bought pretty much all 3 of those guys. I mean, maybe
Yeah,
Tyler Boyd has been there the longest, but he's not the superstar on that team, right? He's been there the longest.
yeah,
And the rest of them all kind of been there around about the same time, and they're all with Joe Burrow. So it's kind of been a natural progression. With Mike Evans, he's been the lead dog since the second he came as the number 2. Following year, he was the number 1, and he's been the number 1 ever. He's been the number 1 ever since. And they've always tried to pair him with somebody else. And the one thing that people always used to say for a while, well, he's so good because he had Tom Brady. Well, he didn't have Tom Brady for. He only had Tom Brady for 3 seasons. And remember, one of those seasons, Tom Brady wasn't that great, and Mike Evans was one of the only saving graces of that team.
yeah.
Well, passing one.
Even during the Super Bowl run, Godwin and Gronk was Brady's guy. A lot of people don't realize that. That's why it took Evans until week 16 to finally
Yeah,
break
Mike
it.
Evans was a red zone threat. So if it was within the 30, yeah, he'd get the ball, but he wasn't getting the ball on first down deep in their own half very
No,
often.
no, he
He
was
was
the
once you cross midfield kind of thing, take a
yeah.
shot or something like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yep.
That's the kind of plays that Mike Evans envisioned for him, where he could maybe it was like second and short. I can take a risk, and then I've still got a third and manageable. That kind of shtick he used him for. But his bread and butter, that was Gronk all day long, and it was as soon as Gronk came into fruition, obviously, and it was Chris Godwin, and then later on became Antonio Brown as well. Mike
Yep.
Evans was probably the third choice by the time the Super Bowl came along.
I agree. I agree
Third to fourth
100%.
choice.
I think he's the third option, like you said, on their side of the field. Now, once they get into enemy territory, then Evans is a factor. Then he becomes the number one or number two guy. But the point is, Evans wasn't going anywhere for you dumbass people out here. Evans is a dog just because he doesn't. And again, he with his
He's got his
personality the
ring,
way
so
it
it's
is.
not like he needs to prove anything. It's not
No,
like he's got all pros. He's got Pro Bowls. He's got the accolades. He's got the 1,000-yard seasons. He's done it. To be honest, in theory, he could go to somewhere bigger, but at the same time, he helped put a franchise that nobody thought was worth a damn and put it on the map for even if it was only for a few seasons. We had that moment where the Buccaneer football was back and everything like that, and I just
absolutely.
don't. I just couldn't see it, and I think if you had to go somewhere, like he had his pick of things. You gotta remember, he's from Texas. He lives in Texas mostly. It's not the world's hardest commute in the world, and I don't see him ever putting on the Dallas Cowboys.
Hell no.
Why would he go to the Texans? I wouldn't know. So it kind of limits his options. I mean, yeah, he could go to places. The thing I find about the diva mentality is like, stay where you are because you know where you are, right? You know what you like the deal you're with. It's like I've been with my company that I work with since I was 19. I'm now almost about to turn 38. Not because it's the greatest company in the world, but it's simple, it's effective, it does what it does. It's whatever. Could there be better jobs out there? For sure, but I'd have to go find them, and I might find a few duds along the way. And what if you find that one that just drives you nuts, and you're like, I just want to get out of here.
Yeah, yeah, and then
Like
yeah,
Odell Beckham in Cleveland. Yeah, he was fucking
perfect
miserable.
example. Yes, but that's also a statement of your character. A guy like Evans is a man who he plays the game. He wants to get paid, but he knows his skills will get him paid. The way that he conducts himself will do the talking. Odell was just a highlight Instagram honey, IG honey, basically, and his antics surpassed his talent, and that's why a lot of people couldn't take him serious. You take Evans serious. Everybody knows around the league Evans got the dog in him, and that's why he stayed with the Bucs. Like you said, that's a hell of a better story. This guy stayed with a team that was in the dark ages, that was just the shitty years, and he stayed through thick and thin, and now rolled on the Bucs fans, we've had great 3 years. Despite this last season, we were still in the playoffs. 3 straight years of playoffs. We haven't seen that since the Dungy days. And that was in the 90s. So appreciate that. Now, I
Mm-hmm.
still think that we have a lot of upside, but yes, Evans is, to me, another Derek Brooks type of caliber guy. Stay loyal. Play till
Yeah,
there's
he is that
nothing.
kind of man of the year type guy as well. So
Yes.
there's a lot to unpack on Mike Evans as a person. So I just don't see him going anywhere.
Yeah, he's
It's
not going
just
anywhere.
of course it could happen, but you just don't know. I think sometimes people when they make up these like predictions, they kind of want to try and put a lot of these guys have a team that they like. Yeah, we all have teams that we like. There's
Of
like no one's
course.
in the media that's completely impartial. There is a team that they like that they either played on if they were a player, or they've spent time around because they're either a fan of them as a kid, or they worked on that like they've worked for media around that area or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
they have somebody in mind where they want them to go. So they'll go, oh yeah, Mike Evans. Oh yeah, he should get he should get traded. And imagine him on this squad, and everyone's like, oh yeah, absolutely, that sounds great because they want it for their squad, not because they genuinely think Mike Evans is going to get traded. Because Mike
right.
Evans isn't going to demand a trade. If Mike Evans was going to leave the Buccaneers, he just wouldn't sign another deal and say, look, I just want to finish my contract. I want to move. I want to see what options are available. I'm not looking for mega money. I want to see what my options available, what cities might want me, and I'll go from there. I'm still keeping the Buccaneers in mind, but I want to see my options, that kind of thing.
Agreed. And then again, I also think this. People can say what they want. With the new OC and the squad that we still have, why would you want to go anywhere? Unless you were going to go to a top tier team where it's damn near guaranteed a Super Bowl, in which he still will want money. The Bucs are in prime position to get back into it. Remember, we already talked about how low the NFC East, the NFC in general is. He still believes in this team, and I'm not trying to speak for Evans, but I have this feeling that, like you said, if he wanted to leave Tampa, he could have left a long time ago. Uh, he's staying where he is because he loves what's going on. I think that Canals is probably telling him, look, we know you're the future guy. We want to feed you because we know if we feed you the rock, that's going to get other players open. When Evans is doubled, Godwin thrives. Then if they have to switch on Godwin, Russell Gage will thrive. That's how it works. Like you said, when you're not a diva and you play unselfish ball, now everybody around you is having fun. Now everybody around you wants to work extra hard and stay on topic and stay on the grind with you. And that's a nightmare for defenses because now a defense got to go, shit. How are we going to contain him? And then God forbid, let the Bucs get an average run game. Now you really stuck. If Baker, and remember, he's not immobile like Brady is. So now we have so many upside things that I think that a lot of Bucs fans are not looking at. And of course, we know damn well the experts are, oh well, Baker's not Brady. No shit, nobody's Brady. But that's why Brady is the GOAT. But Baker is a mobile quarterback. I told you, Mike Evans thrives best with the quarterback that can improvise. The stats speak for itself. Jameis, improviser. He got the most yards because of that. Even Fitzpatrick. A lot of people don't realize one of the best games that Evans I've seen have is with Fitzpatrick against the Saints when he torched Marshawn Lattimore, and it was bad. So Evans is not going anywhere, Buck fans. 9 times out of 10, I would say 90% he'll retire a Buccaneer.
I got a nice little thing I want to add in the
yes
thing here. So, do you know who Baker Mayfield reminds me of a little bit?
Don't say Daniel Jones.
No, because Daniel Jones is way more of a runner than No. Let's say a certain number 13 on our team's former quarterback in college.
Is that fair? Johnny Football.
There's a bit of Johnny Football about him. And
I agree.
And if you ask Mike Evans, he will not have a bad word said against Johnny Football. As far as he's concerned, Johnny Football was the dude, and that was it. Even though we all have our opinions on that, look, they must have had a chemistry that was just booming. And if he can find that with another, they're both from Texas as well.
Yep. If he can find that with Baker, you're right. They're on to something.
Baker's not too far away.
Not at all. But Baker got that insight where he can ignite a team. He has that potential. Now we have to make sure that he doesn't allow his antics to throw a game away. But I'm gonna look at it like this: he has a plethora of consistent talent. There's a difference. He had talent in Cleveland, but it wasn't consistent.
I think he had this consistent talent. I think the issue was they didn't. I think there was that one year that they did really well, because you got to remember that's a tough division to win as well. It's not exactly like even it like with the Steelers going down, they're still going to be in it in December. They're still going to be hunting. The Ravens are still good. The emergence of Cleveland. I don't think Cincinnati were really that into it just yet, but
not yet.
it's a tough division to kind of come out as champs on, and then to go into the playoffs and absolutely destroy Pittsburgh's, literally destroy them. I think the thing that just went wrong, I just don't think they didn't know how to utilize everything that they had, because they had 2 very good wide receivers, they had a good tight end, and they had a running back beast. I think the problem was, when you have a running back beast, and any team with a franchise running back a franchise level running back, is guilty of this. And how many of them go to the playoffs and win all the way and go and win Super Bowls? None of them, because
No,
it just doesn't really work like that.
no, unless you have a
Most of the teams that win
yeah,
win because they have a really good quarterback and have a solid running back. You don't need to have the best running back in football because that
no,
makes you too one-dimensional.
yeah,
So don't get me wrong, if you stick a Saquon Barkley on the Bills, I'm sure he will spark up. But then your offensive coordinator's got to go, right, how do I get this balancing act right? Because
yeah,
what running backs can be divas too. Then give me the rock, give me the rock, give me the rock. If they're averaging really well, they're like, keep giving me. But that's putting wear on them. And then when you get to the playoffs, this is where the teams that go to the playoffs generally have good run defenses, and you'll get shut down. That's why Derrick Henry doesn't do that great in the playoffs, because he's sussed out and he's burnt out.
exactly.
It's
And
difficult.
yeah, agree. And if you're gonna have a run game, like you said, if you're gonna rely on your run, your defense has to be historical. You have to have like with the Legion of Boom, and like you
But
said,
even then, they were really balanced
yeah,
because they
yeah, and they
had
had
Russell Wilson who could ad
that's
lib.
true, that's true. And
And their wide receiving core wasn't great. It was never great, but it was decent. It was
they got
solid.
the job. They got the job done. I agree with what you're
They got the
saying.
job done for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why you don't rely on the run game too much. It's not like it was back in the day. You got to have a. I
Oh yeah,
think.
that's it. You could just have a elite defense and a very good running back. But even then, that at the further you got into the playoffs, someone will suss out your run game
Oh,
because that's what they have
absolutely.
to stop. Let me make you throw it, because if I can make that's our game plan going into this game. Make them fucking throw it, because this team, the team that we're playing, plays
Yeah.
amazing defense, but they don't score very well. But they
Mm,
have a good, and they are three backs, so I think it's 31 personnel,
yeah.
and they just run, and they'll take whatever they get, and they have a vertical passing game. That is all they have. So our goal for this game is to force them to pass, because we believe we can outplay them. If they do pass the ball, we can get pick sixes and picks and what have you. The running game, I think their backs are very careful. They don't cough up the ball very too often. So
No.
when you have a team that's only one dimensional, take them
Yeah.
away from that dimension, and now they're uncomfortable.
I agree, and you're right. And if you're not good at passing, you can gas out your defense. Even with an elite defense, now they're tired. Shit, I'm back on the field again after this turnover. Damn, I'm getting tired because you know why? The Bucs defense last season was a perfect example of that. When the
Mm-hmm.
offense sputtered, the defense can only do so much. And I want to piggyback off to what you said about the Browns and the Steelers. What was the biggest thing that Ben Roethlisberger was doing? The same thing like Brady. He
Mm-hmm.
wasn't mobile enough. He was a statue. He
Yeah,
was a
yeah,
former shell of himself. And that's why I'm so excited on having a quarterback that can be mobile. He's not Baker. We know Baker's not necessarily a big runner, but he runs when necessary. We knew Brady's not doing that. And even when Brady ran, we all held our breath like, oh shit, slide or
You know what?
fall.
There were some good times though. You remember that
Oh yeah,
the
all the
second
laugh.
season, that was legit. Probably but the first season had the first season with Brady had ups and downs, and it was like a bit
Yes.
of a tidal wave.
Yeah.
And then once we got past the shitty games, that 4 game losing streak, I think it was, and then we got on a bit of a tidal wave. Like, okay, we could do pretty well. We got the players. We'll see what happens. We'll
Yeah.
see what happens. I'm not scared of anyone but the Saints. That's all I was saying in my mind. Of everyone, I was like, the only team I fear is the fucking Saints, because they know had our number.
Yeah. The
And
Saints,
then
the
we
Saints
wrote
were
that wrong, so that was great. The
yeah.
second year, oh my lord, it was like a fucking clinic. It was like
Yeah.
we were just having fun.
No, we were. The second season, you could, in a way, it was damn near too easy. The way that we were
Mm.
dismantling teams. One of the best games. Look at what we did to the Dolphins. Look at what we did to the Bears. The Bears is what come to mind because
Oh
that was
yeah,
not
that was the
not
one when
only
Tom Brady went. I think I had I probably should have had another 2 touchdowns. You're like, fucking
yes, yes, because he was pissed. And it was so bad. That game, the entire team was just destroying poor Justin Fields. He couldn't do shit. He couldn't
hell.
throw. He couldn't run. But yes, you're absolutely right though. That second, the first 2 years of the Bucs, that offense, but the best offense was that second year because it was just like you said, it was a machine. It was oil. It was just everything. Our biggest
And
downfall.
I think that season made us a little bit too greedy, because we were like, okay,
Yeah,
Well, we're hearing reports that Tom Brady doesn't like that Bruce Arians comes in and scribbles all over the fucking game
yeah,
plan, right?
right.
So we're like, oh my God, Tom Brady's coming back. We're going to get unadulterated year two, which means we're going to have year 2.1,
Yeah,
which means it's going to be even more bananas, right? That's what's going to fucking happen. We got Lenny Fournette's coming back. We got all these guys coming back. Fucking brilliant. Let's fucking go. Let's go get some. And then it doesn't quite work. It doesn't happen.
no, it doesn't, and it was working for a moment, but then when injuries started playing in effect, and then the turmoil happened with the AB bullshit situation, and then Worth's going down, like you said, it just eventually the wheels started to fall off, and that's why I say the second year was super disappointing because, like you said, I thought the Bucks would win like a Super Bowl, like no. With worse, I always said we would win, but the second year, I thought we were gonna be like fucking 15-2 and just get to the Super Bowl and just take off and just be a two back to back. But it didn't happen, and that's what pisses me off because at the end of the day, I think we can all say, not comfortably, but I give me a 70% that egos divided that locker room in the players and the coaching staff, and it cost us. It cost us. It cost us a fucking back to back. I don't know how it would have been if we went back to back.
That would have been pretty epic.
That would have
'Cause
been, look, we
not
can
many teams have done. Not it's not a done thing anyway. But
no,
anyway, we've
and
got our first guest in, so I'm going to bring him in.
let's do this.
You're good with the introductions.
I, look, I'll let you do it. I'll let you do
All
it this
right.
time.
Please allow James Coleman to join the stream to talk about whatever he's got to talk about. How you doing, brother? How's it going?
I'm doing good, man. How about yourself?
We doing all right out here. It's nice to talk, to be able to be talking subtle with the Florida State guy right here. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, yeah. We should be good. That's awesome. It feels better to be good than suck. Like
Hey,
we haven't had that in a while.
that's all right. Viewer discretion advised. I'm a Gator fan, so comp. But
Somebody's got to root for the autistic cousin. Nothing wrong with that.
Hey, look, I'm gonna let that slide because you had Derek Brooks, you had Warwick Dunn, and of course you got prime time. So I ain't gonna say nothing. Y'all had some great players come out of that school, so I give
Greg
you
Spires too.
Greg. Oh, yep, Greg Spires.
So.
You know, hey, I can dig it, but
we've had a couple Bucs.
Yeah, you know, so did the Gators. You know, we had our Ernest Grahams of the day. You know, then of course Emmett's of the world. You know, not to brag, Tebow.
Is this the AJ where I admit that I'm also a Florida State fan?
Oh, that's awesome.
What's wrong with you?
College football's a little bit harder to follow over here, so I don't watch it a lot, but I do watch a fair bit. I did watch the FSU take apart Florida last year.
That's all right.
With the accent, I think I would have thought you'd be a fan of a different NFL team, but that's cool. You know,
which team, just in case?
The team that's always in London or over
I've
across
seen
the
them
pond,
plenty
the
of times.
Jags.
I've gone to the London games quite often and met a fair few of the Jags players. They are absolutely amazing people. Every time I've met them, they've been really cool, even while I'm wearing Buccaneers merchandise. So their sound is $1 a pound.
Yeah, and look, man, and for guys out there who don't know, this is another Florida bred man right here, Tallahassee, right?
Yeah, from Tallahassee. Live in Jacksonville, but definitely born and bred in Tallahassee, Florida.
I can dig it. Tampa, Florida man right here, East Tampa. So I wasn't one of them people who jumped on. I was there from the beginning. Look, the creamsicle days when we were the yucking-ears and sucking-ears and all that good stuff. But I want to know, what made you a Jags fan?
Well, I'm not a Jag fan. I want to put that out there. I cover the Jaguars. It's a big difference.
That's right. You cover the Jags.
And in that, it's your job is easier when they're good.
Okay.
And you get a chance to get to know these guys off the field. Obviously, as a former player myself, but we all have a job to do. As I've always said, players play, coaches coach, writers write, and then the fans get to enjoy the product of everybody. So my job is to give the fan as much of the experience from a fan perspective, a former player's perspective, but also a writer's perspective. and or a news journalist's perspective. And it's last year was fun. I also the same thing with FSU, even though I'm a former FSU player, so that makes it even a little bit more different. But I'm a fan of football. I actually really enjoy every aspect of it. So I am that guy that from Friday night I'm watching high school ball. Saturday I'm not just watching FSU. I'm literally watching football from noon till midnight. Then turning right back around on Sunday, watching the 1 o'clock games, which is typically when the Jags are playing. Then turning right around, watching some while I'm critiquing the last game, watching the 4:15 games, watching the 8 p.m. Sunday night football games to go into Monday night football. So I'm just a fan, an overall fan of that. And then being in Florida for I'm 30, I'll be 39. Most of my life, we didn't have the Jaguars in the beginning stages of my life. So I got a chance to watch the Bucs. Actually, the first football game I ever went to was Gene Atkins, and I think Gene Atkins had played for Tampa Bay and New Orleans. But he was with New Orleans at the time, and he took us to a Saints game in New Orleans versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Worst football game I've ever watched in my life, but it's one of the first football memories I have. I think that was in like 1993. So both teams weren't very good. And then to get an opportunity, that's where I played my 1 year in the NFL. I played with the New Orleans Saints in the 2006 season. So it was cool. But as far as the Jags goes, my son is a Jags fan. So that's the other side of it. Being a father, and my son is I don't even know how you say it. It's a Jacksonvilleian or something. Like he's Jacksonville through and through. He's gonna love the Jags. So he's living and dying by it. And I'm just like, Dad just got to work. So I like to see a smile on his face. And they were pretty good this year.
That's what's up. Well, give me 3 things that you took away from the Jags this past season. Three solid things and 3 things that they can work on.
Doug Peterson's a hell of a coach. Trevor Lawrence is next up when it comes to quarterbacks. And in the NFL, it's very difficult to be as consistently bad as they were. I'd argue that that's a good takeaway because now we have competent coaching across the board. I guess I'll use that other one as the bottom 3 what they need to work on. But not just Doug Peterson, competent defensive strategy, competent offensive strategy, and decent front office. Now, moving forward, they might be able to maintain the momentum and the things that they need to work on. They're still a young team, so somebody's got to become that leader. And it's tough when nobody knows how to win in the NFL. But to go back to what I was saying about how hard the Jaguars averaged 4 wins a season for a decade, and that's including a run to the 3rd round of the playoffs. It's easier to win a Super Bowl than to be as bad as the Jags were. The league is set up for parity. If you really look at it, it's designed to be average. So right now with that extra game, it's designed for teams to fall in that 8 and 9 category, 9 and 8, but really 7 wins to 10 wins is where a majority of your teams should fall. The teams below 7 wins, which would be your 6 or 5 teams, those are the ones who should be drafted top 10. If you should not be able to do that every year with the salary cap. If you win 11 games, you're hosting a playoff game, or like the Jags did, 9 wins, you win your division. But to not be able to even be average or mid for so long shows how incompetent the hiring process, the front staff, and everybody was. And now to get Doug Peterson to just come in and in 1 year flip it around from the first round pick to hosting the playoff game, winning your division with seemingly all young up and coming players. That's something, but they still got to work on who's the pieces. And then I would say demanding more out of your star players, even though I can't think of my guy's name. Our running back, it'll come to me. Etienne, Travis Etienne. I got a chance to watch him for 4 years, completely destroyed my alma mater. I haven't seen that Travis Etienne in the NFL. Even though he ran for over 1,000 yards, you saw a guy who constantly put the ball on the ground. You saw a guy who couldn't dodge a light pole all of a sudden. You saw a guy who just dropped passes, wasn't really that game changer consistently. And if he was that game changer consistently, you're probably talking about the Jags being an 11-win team as opposed to a 9-win regular season team. But, the young teams pick up late. They need to start off faster than they started off last season. But I think it's still, if you're a Jags fan, you should start the season off pretty excited.
I like that. The Jags give me the AFC Detroit Lions vibe. The team, the organization that's been down for so long, but now that they finally got the front office together, you want to root for the Jags in Detroit. You want to root for these teams because you're right. Don't nobody want to see your team fall so low for so many years, especially due to incompetence from the front office. So, and I'm glad that since you've been a player, let's talk about this because I don't think a lot of people out there truly understands your coaching sets the tone for your organization, and some coaches can make or break careers. Um, Tell me that, like, how, in your experience, you don't have to give names, but tell me throughout the years where you've seen good coaches and bad coaches, and what's the difference, in your opinion, between a good coach and a bad coach?
Um, it's real easy. Like it's attitude reflects leadership, and it's a thing about consistency and knowing what you're going to expect. And a good coach, especially in the NFL, I guess it's three. There's the knowns. There's known knowns. There's unknown knowns, and then there's unknown unknowns. If anybody's watched Boondocks and you remember that scene, you would know that. But it's true in everything. There's things you know. There's things you know that you don't know. And then there's things that you don't know that you don't know. And as a head coach or a leader, you try to mitigate those first two as much as you can. So you stick where you're strong at. You hire people who are strong where you're weak at. And then for the things that you don't know, that's where you got to have a good front office in place. And to see bad coaching is to see Urban Meyer on the NFL side. Urban Meyer on the college side, you can argue what you want. The guy's is a winner. What he did though was he didn't know what he didn't know, and he didn't know what he didn't know. Like didn't know. Like it was, and he wasn't even strong in his known. So he went and hired a bunch of college guys. And I think it's always the formula to fail for college guys is that you come in with the mindset that you can control people, and this is grown man ball. Like a lot of these guys are your veterans are have been here before. They know how to practice. They know what it takes. They don't need you critiquing it and being over every little thing. You got to be able to have something unless you're innovative. And we haven't had that. But I'll say Coughlin is the example of a good coach in a coach's like title. He was a terrible exec because he didn't know how to be an exec. He only knows how to be a coach. So he was kind of overstepping and blurring those lines. But him as a coach, he was able to have a level of have the bar, and you have to come to his level, and he's not going to bring it down. He's only going to bring in guys who are going to rise to his level of expectation and consistency. Whereas Urban was trying to be a player's coach and a disciplinarian at the same time, and it doesn't work. Those would be the two examples that I've seen. But the guy who probably does it the best for a player's coach probably be Pete Carroll out in Seattle. But he also failed miserably as an NFL coach once, then went back to college and came back with some lessons. So, but yeah, and as you talk about ruining your career, they'll bring, and I know you just brought up Tebow. There's not Tim Tebow, one of the greatest college football players of all time. It's okay to not be any good in the NFL. I wasn't any good in the NFL. It happens. It happens to a lot. One of my friends, Peter Ward, wasn't any good in the NFL. One of the most dynamic college players of all time. But you bringing in a guy to play tight end that one of the notable plays of him at tight end is getting hit in the back of the head running a flat route. Whereas you're giving him a roster spot when there's guys who are actually out here truly trying to fight for the bottom of that could probably make you better. All because of the relationship, all because of what you think that they bring. Like if you want them to help with culture, make them a chaplain. And it's not just Tim Tebow. A lot of coaches do things like that, and it just never really works. Outside of, there's only one person who can come in if he knows the system and play until he's 65 years old. That's just because he's that cerebral and that good, and that's Tom Brady. And even he, sometimes you're like, dang, I see a dent in the armor.
Oh yeah, more than that. And I'm glad you talked about that. How you say guys and coaches will bring their their friends in. That's what I think was going on in the Bucs organization. Don't get it twisted. And I know you're familiar with him, Mr. Byron Leftwich, because he played for the Jags. And the vibe that I got from their dynamic was that Arians was looking out for a friend and he's trying to get him to another level. But this is a business. And if your friend can't handle the business, then he doesn't need to be in that position, because it's a lot of, again, this is why I think it's a domino effect, because with him being bad, then you got these players that we know that are good. They look bad. And that's the dynamics that I got, which frustrated me, because you know the game. We all know the game. There are just certain plays where I'm like, okay, if I know this, I've never been in the NFL. Hey, at least you got your foot in the door, so shout out to you. But if I can see that from a bar, what's going to happen, that's a problem, because now that means professionals, they definitely know, and they're going to make you pay. So that was my frustration. I in the NFL, if you're not good, you're just not good.
And that's fair. I think the problem, Byron's going to run into the same problem, a similar problem that Bruce Arians is running into. And it's how much of it was you and how much of it was the quarterback or the guy who was there before you, who was an offensive-minded guy. And fair or not fair, doesn't matter. Critiques and perception ruins perspective sometimes when it comes to the NFL anyway. But you have to be able to put guys in a good position, and players know when a play is not going to work, and it's not, or you feel like the play is not going to work because they've been stopping it. And defenses at that level, like, they pick up on every key and cue, because the difference between the NFL and college is less about your physical preparation as it's about your mental preparation. And there's only so many different combinations of routes, only so many different pass blocking combinations, so many run combinations and blitzes and things like that that you see. So if you're smarter and you have the ability to be able to get there correctly, you're going to always be a step ahead. But when you're not really sure of yourself, or you're not sure of the leadership, is going to definitely make you a step slower, to say the least. I believe every offensive play was designed to score. Every defensive play was designed to stop the offense from scoring. But if you don't believe that the offensive play is going to score, you sure as hell ain't finna go out there 110%. And I think that's what you were seeing even if you're not a Bucs fan and you're on the outside looking in, and you saw, where they did not have the success that they had, obviously, before. You kind of you got to get to know that, on top of all the other drama that went into the previous season, which isn't fun. I've never seen anybody have a great divorce, but
I wanted to follow up with that, and obviously you work with media around Jacksonville, and Byron Leftwich was a shoe-in for the coaching role at Jacksonville. Was there at any point when the Buccaneers season was going the way it was, that there was almost a collective sigh of relief that we're like, thank God we didn't take this guy?
Well, it's different. Like, coordinator and head coach it's not really in the same. It's like, I don't know what.
But he was being hired to become your next head coach. That's my.
Yeah.
Sorry, my brain just had to retract. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, we actually liked it. We wanted them to come, because you've seen the success. Because it's not just the Bucs, where people who've seen him leave. We remember when he went to Pittsburgh. We saw him flourish as a backup in Pittsburgh, and we've seen him kind of make the ascension to become a good guy who wasn't really as well liked as a player in Jacksonville, but we respected him as a coach. And you see the progression, you see the maturity. You saw him out in Arizona, you saw all the different places that he went, and you were hoping to bring that there, but he's never had the opportunity to be able to run a ship. And unfortunately, and it's a lot of other things to get into that. I don't think it was with Jacksonville, where you talk about the Rooney Rule and black coaches not getting the opportunities. I just think the opportunity for Doug Peterson and why Doug Peterson left Philly. He didn't leave Philly because he sucked. He left Philly because he got into it with his boss and his general manager. And you saw how quick he transformed Philly with everybody thought he was going to have one quarterback. That quarterback got hurt, and he comes in with Nick Foles and still scorches it with Nick Foles. So when you get that opportunity, a guy who's had a good structure as a head coach, you take that opportunity because what's happened is under Shaw's direction, he's had nothing but first-year head coaches or first-time head coaches, and it hasn't worked. And the biggest mistake that he made coming in was he was a first-year owner, hiring a first-year head coach, hiring a first-year general manager. You can't have that much stuff. And we still got we have Trent Baalke, who while he was an assistant GM, this was his first, and he technically was the GM for Urban, but they let Urban do his own thing. But you can't have basically an inexperienced GM with an inexperienced head coach. You needed to bring somebody, got to come to the table with something, and I think that's why Byron wasn't was kind of passed over. But I think if we didn't get Doug Peterson, I think Byron would have been a guy they kind of went after. But that's also one of the dangers and the things that suck about having a really, really good team, a good franchise. When you go deep in the playoffs, you don't get a chance to interview these guys like that.
No, I think that was a blessing in disguise for you because, like you said, Doug Peterson is a coach that knows how to inspire his players. But more than that, he also knows what he's doing because you know this. We've all got those guys where he's the rah-rah where he can get you together. You got the guys that can emotionally get you there. Then you got the technical guys that say, okay, while he's doing that, I'm going to do this. Doug Peterson was perfect. I like the fact that he came in and he helped Trevor excel and take it to another level. But also, I think he reinstilled confidence in Trevor. I saw confidence in him. Now, do you agree?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. One thing they did when they hired Doug Peterson, like I just love saying the name. They hired Jim Bob Cooter, and just nothing's better than some good Cooter. If that was just one of our running jokes on my show. But quarterback guy, they hired 4 quarterback guys that not only trained quarterbacks, but I think most of them played quarterback, including Dougie P, who had been that guy behind the guy. So he's seen it firsthand when you have a phenomenal quarterback that you're backing up. So he was able to him and the staff were able to be calming forces as basically Trevor goes through rookie year number 2. The rookie year number 1 sucked under Urban. That was probably the worst. I think his growth got stunted a little bit. But one of the realest moments that I saw was when they were going into the bye week, and it was really bad. It was trending bad. And Doug said, they said, what are you going to tell them to make them, have a better, like basically come back out of the bye? He said, just get away from football. Like, just go reset. We're going to reset and we're going to come back. And then if you look at what happened with the Jags after the bye week, that's when the explosion of wins and the consistency came back. That's only the respect that players will give you the respect because you were a former player, you've won. But he was also able to come in and talk to Trevor on a level that Urban could never, that other coaches could not really ever connect with him. And he got that winner out of him. And we've seen crazy stuff, like even the first playoff game, like that was crazy. He had the worst first half of football that I've ever seen in my life. But he's also had the best second half of football that I've ever seen in my life in the same game. It was like 2 different games. The Jags comeback on the Chargers was incredible because it was the first time that somebody had came down from that many scores without getting 1 turnover. Like Jags got no turnovers on the Chargers. It was just a bunch of 3 and outs. And it was, but again, I think Doug P is a great coach.
I agree.
I think so, yeah. I think he's shown his worth. I think a lot of people wrote him off because of what happened after, and people just assume that things should just go straight and smooth. But he's done his piece, and he's come in and kind of flipped that team around a little bit. So I think it's fantastic what he's done. To be honest, what is your I won't say prediction, but what things from the current crop that they currently have, the current team that they currently have, and the rookies they've just brought in? Who do you want to see have big days? Trevor Lawrence obviously being one of them.
Calvin Ridley, like, man, I'm gambling on that. I hope that boy does. Like,
all pun intended, huh?
He is like,
yeah, I'm sure he is banned from every bookies, every casino. That guy will have, as soon as he walks in, get the fuck out.
yeah, it's crazy what we were able to do with Christian Kirk, who was the number one, but he's never had to be a number one. Now Calvin Ridley comes in and he moves back to where he was more comfortable at, being one of the best number 2 wide receivers he can get. And crazy Zay Jenkins, Zay is like, if you don't know Zay's background, go Google him. That's the one who's running butt naked through the hallways. I think when he was with Buffalo, with the Raiders. But he's so dynamic. Like, he's actually a really good wide receiver. So you've actually got a true number 2, a number 1 in Calvin Ridley, who can take the top off of a defense, with Evan Ingram, who the Giants had just written off. So if Evan Ingram could do the things that he did last year, Calvin Ridley is what he is, Christian Kirk is what he is, and then ETN can become more consistent. You really have a plethora of weapons to be able to see this offense be nice. And the way that everybody's contracts are structured, you can see them be nice for quite some time. It's and especially as the salary cap continues to increase. But the thing that they're going to really need outside of the offense being the offense, which that in and of itself should be fun. Their offensive line is still one of their weaknesses. That's why they got the guy from Oklahoma. He's going to probably come in, play right tackle in the beginning of it, while Cam Robinson potentially serves a suspension. But we have some other guys in there. But even Cam's not. And he's not the most elite left. He's not worse when he was at his peak. But that defense, somebody's got to step up in that defense. Mm-hmm. So who I really want to see is Josh Allen be everything that we thought he could be his rookie year when he had Yannick Ngakoue on the other side facing him. So you've got your former number 1 overall pick that's over there in Trayvon, but he's not a pass rusher. He's a good defensive end. He can do a lot of things, but he's never set the world on fire with sacks. That's what you need Josh Allen to be. And I think that is the key to the entire defense, is can they rush the passer? Because if you could you need to get 3 stops. If you get 3 stops in this game, I think the Jags offense can score enough to be able to separate you, because that's going to be tough. The only thing I think can really stop them is them. But bigger than that, in the AFC, if you look at all the top quarterbacks, they're all in the top 10 quarterbacks, all in the AFC. So, like, you got to have something on defense to be able to slow these guys down.
I agree. I also think I want to see Trevor take it to another level. We have to be real. I think Trevor, for the next 2 to 3 years, he's going to have to keep excelling, as we just stated. The AFC is loaded with your Joe Burrows, Mahomes, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert. It's a lot of pressure on him, and I hope that he's up to the challenge, because he has no choice. I want to see more. I saw a lot of promise because, like I said, Peterson instilled him that confidence again, but I really want to see him take off this season, because, as you said, he has no choice. The defense has to get together, and that line, that offense is going to have to gel. We all know it takes a while for offenses to truly get in their full form. They usually don't hit their stride for most until week 9 to 10. I want to see Trevor Lawrence. How confident, if you had to say right now, do you see him, any of the other quarterbacks I just mentioned, do you see him at least have a potential to get to their level?
Yeah. I'd argue that he's out. Well, we haven't seen him against Burrow. I can't say he's outperformed Burrow. That would be a lie. He actually had, even before Meyer got fired, because, he was deciding to show a young lady how to snap the ball properly in his club back in Ohio. The Jags had them beat.
Yeah. And
I'm going to tell you why I watched that game in particular. And this is the game where I wanted to go to the airport and kick Urban Meyer in the nuts. My buddy was in New Jersey, speaking to Calvin Ridley, with gambling. And he's asked me, he's like, do you think the Jags have a chance to beat the Bengals? He's like, by 3 touchdowns. I said, there's no way in hell. It was something to where if you bet like $100, you would get 3,000. But they had like these 3-tier 14 points. You'll get this. Then it was 7. Like it got to the point where if you bet 100, if the Jags got a 7-point win, you got like $500. So me and my partner came up with the idea. We're gonna put $100 on each one of these levels, knowing that one of them's gonna happen. When they almost went up 3 scores in the halftime, all you had to do was kick a field goal, and it would have been like 17-0, and I would have really liked my chances because that game's over at that point. But he tried to go and run it with Trevor, and then Trevor gets tackled, and then they come back out and they just mud stomp the Jags in the second half. I was so mad because I was already spending that money. Like I already knew I was like, we were like this was the greatest gamble of all time. But it didn't work. But I say that to say Patrick Mahomes, the Jags have actually given the Chiefs a really, really good game. That game at Arrowhead in the playoffs, you don't fumble the ball inside your own 5. You probably have a chance to go out there and win it. And, we should probably stop Kelsey. Like somebody should guard that guy. But Patrick Mahomes is obviously talented. He's beaten Herbert. I don't remember. No, we didn't. Whatchamacallit didn't play that game, but he's got a chance. I think he can. He won't be the best because it's Pat Mahomes until proven otherwise. Is the best quarterback in the AFC, but I could definitely see him being consistently that top 4 or 5 guy, and maybe even if they get hot, you never know, being the number 3. But you got Lamar Jackson, you got Herbert, you got Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes. It's a Tua, and I'm no disrespected. If he can remember the play, his eggs got scrambled a little bit last season.
All right.
So, but they've got weapons around him to where it's hard for him not to be successful. So
yeah, you got the quarterback. You got my man in Cleveland that people are sleeping on.
Aaron Rodgers
with Deshaun Watson. Yeah, you're right. Aaron Rodgers is with the Jets now. The
AFC is going to be very competitive. Very. So yes, he has a lot. The Jags have a lot cut out for them. So, and I want to ask you this about covering. What's the most challenging part of covering the team for you, from the aspect of players, fans, and the media? Which one where you just go, all right, I got to really make sure I watch what I say?
Well, I'm 6 foot 285. I'm not built like most media people. So I try not to say anything that where I'm gonna have to fight, but at the same time, I'm gonna be as upfront as I can. But it's being fair, right? Because the NFL is a game of parity, and you're trying to predict and give the fan base either hope or the ability to understand what their emotions are. People are emotional. And a lot of people want to feel good, but they want to have or at worst have a justification for why they feel the way that they feel. And I won't lie, like before the bye week, in considering the history, it was very difficult to predict that we would be in the playoffs. But at the same time, you can't be a fan. And I'm not a fan, but my job's easier when they win. So you have to be able to be excited for them, but also remain a partial source so that you don't lose your true credibility. We have people here. I used to work for the station of the Jags, and I swear for like every year, we're going to the playoffs. No, we're not. We didn't do anything to make the playoffs. We didn't do anything to make the roster better. And they're saying we're going to get to the playoffs. But now I can legitimately say they've done some things to improve the roster in areas, still have weak spots, but there's no 53-man roster that's 53 deep. Most rosters, if you're on an NFL team, you got 8 playmakers and everybody else is a role player. And really, even in 8 is a lot. You really have maybe 2 per side if you're really, really lucky. 2 cats that just are unguardable. But you have to be able to communicate that to the fan base so that they can, raise or lower their expectations accordingly.
I can dig it. Well, the 02 Bucs had like 5 on each side, but I don't want to brag.
Well, yeah, now listen, man. That team, Derek Brooks, you had both DNs, Warren Sapp, You have my boy Dexter Jackson. Shout out to Monticello, Florida. That's basically right outside of Tallahassee. I got a chance to see him when I was down in. He got inducted into the Florida Sports Hall of Fame last year.
That's nice.
Great guy. And then when the Super Bowl was in Tampa, I got a chance to hang out with him when I came down there to cover that. But yeah, y'all had some.
We had a squad. We had a squad. Lynch, look, Shelton Quarles. I remember Corey Ivy. A lot of people don't even realize Corey Ivy was that man too. Yes, no, but you are definitely right. Typically, you hope to have 3 to 4 playmakers, and then you pray that you can have one superstar. If you can have if you have 2 to 3 superstars, you're blessed.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, what else did I want to ask you? Let's do a throwback since we've been talking about certain things. First off, what made you want to go to Florida State? I mean, what made you want to go there?
Well, so part of my family's transplants to the southeast. My mother was born in Trenton, New Jersey, basically right outside of Philly. Nobody in my family plays sports besides me and my sister. I mean, my father's side, but nobody ever really rose through the ranks. And when I grew up in Tallahassee, was like the dynasty era of Florida State. So that was when Bob they went on their streak of 15 years of top 5 finishes. And then FAMU right across the street was jumping to with Billy Joe, and they were playing in every weekend. Like Saturday, it was the Sunday newspaper would be full of clips from the Saturday's games that you would just it was just amazing plays. So I got a chance to go to my first Florida State game when I was in 10th grade. It was Florida State Miami. That was the year we won the national championship. And from there, I was just like, yo, I want to play college ball. I didn't really know I knew I was good, but I didn't know I was that good. And I was going to go to Miami, actually. But then my everybody thinks they just let jocks in, and that's not quite true. Like, you do have to get accepted. And my GPA wasn't, I wasn't able to get into that private school that Miami is. Miami's a really good academic school. But I was able to get into Florida State school, and they were able to lower the requirements because my test score was I scored a 30 on the ACT on the first try. So I was able to get in because of that. And then, but I always wanted to play for Bobby Bowden, man. He was just that old man is dope. And what I loved about him, and I learned to emulate that in my own way. Bobby was an old white man from Alabama, and I know you probably don't get that reference across the pond. I don't really know.
I've read Bobby's books and stuff like that. He's
what I mean is Alabama is about as backwards as you could get. And
you know what they say about Alabama people, all right?
Listen, I love Bob, but what I'm saying, he never tried to be young and hip. He never tried to be. He never turned his hat backwards. He never spoke in slang. He was a Christian man, Southern born back, but he made you relate to that. So he was able to come to my neighborhood and get a guy like me to relate, and it was the coolest thing in the world. Like, we would kill for that old Southern white man, and he let us do our thing. Like, he let us, we were like during that era, we were jumping on logos, getting in fights, and doing everything, and we were his boys, and he was the old man. And I'm appreciative of having that opportunity to be able to play for a legend, because I say 90% of my life, people don't really ask me about my career. They'll find out that I was actually pretty decent. Everybody wants to know what was it like to play for Bobby. When he passed,
I think I would have gone down that alley as well.
Yeah. When he passed 2 years ago, that was one of the. I really felt like it felt like I lost the. That was probably the one of the closest losses that I've had in quite some time is losing him when he died a few years ago.
No, rest in peace, Bobby. I'm a Gator fan just because my sister went there, my oldest sister went there, and then of course I remember the Steve Spurriers.
Yeah,
and he was the man. I liked his energy, and I liked the fact that he just, I remember my sister took me to these games, and I saw these guys play, and I was just enamored. And right then and there, Gator, But of course, you already know Floridians. You cannot be like, oh, all three of them are on teams. You are either a Gator fan, Florida State, or Miami.
Right.
If that's how we could always, get out the phonies. Because if you say you were all those fans, that's blasphemous. But we always did have respect. Like where I'm from in Tampa, I'm a Gator fan, but we have respect for certain players from certain areas. Like everybody loved Primetime. Everybody loved Charlie Ward. Everybody loved, Ward Dunn. I mean, in Miami, the '01 Hurricanes. Enough said. You have respect for certain squads.
I was in Tampa about 4 years ago. Hanging out,
Yeah.
name y'all probably know, Sean King. I was hanging out with King, and King, I guess, either went to school or knew. Well, I guess they all played together. I got a chance to meet Riddell Anthony, and then I know got a chance to meet Jaquez Green. Great men. So I mean, a lot of us, while we battled each other when we were in college, we're all grown now. It's all respect. We all got a chance. Some of us were teammates in the NFL. And, kind of move past the stuff.
All right. Okay. Well, give me like your team in college that you played where you was like, wow, like you had respect, but you also had a hate where the rivalry, you just like, man, like I really hope we whoop y'all asses.
Oh, I hate UF. I ain't gonna lie to you about that. I just like those guys. Those guys I had a great experience with those guys. Like another guy, Shannon Snell, who played O-line at UF. Like I've had great experiences with Shannon, but when that last weekend in November, there ain't no love lost on that. Miami is one of those where it's kind of like I almost went to Miami. So like and they were just really, really good during that time. So I dislike them. I more dislike their fans than I dislike the school because like they've been coming back since I was a senior in high school. The last time they won, and I'm about to celebrate. I think my 22nd reunion coming up soon. So like that's a long time to be coming back. But yeah, it's I would say Florida's probably the rival that. I just like I want to beat them by 40 every time. Miami, I just wanted to win, but they were good. They were really good when I played against them. So
I can dig it, man. Your favorite year at Florida State? Go. You already know. Everybody got their favorite year.
That I was at Florida State.
Yeah, yes, sir.
2003, we won the ACC. We were a bad Clemson game or a crazy Miami game. We played Miami twice that year. We lost to them twice, but if the ball bounces a different way, we're probably in the national championship that year. But and then 05, we won the first ever, but I would say 03 mainly. 03 is probably my favorite year.
03 was a good year too. 03 was real.
That's also the first year I like started. I was like really playing. 02, I didn't play as much. I played, but I was reserved. 03, I became the starter, and so that's why it was probably more fun too.
Nice. Still keep in touch with your buddies, with your teammates.
Yeah. Well, we all have families, and there'll be guys that Twitter and Facebook and IG made the world so much smaller. And it's so cool. A lot of us, like one of my teammates, Lorenzo Booker, his son is one of the top wide receivers in the nation in 2025, and it's just like, wow, that's crazy. Like to think that we're that old now. So I talked with Leon Washington, who's in the league, coaches for the Jets. A lot of times it's like we'll talk like 2 or 3 times a year, and now everybody's starting to come back to like spring games are becoming almost like a family reunion type of thing. And so we'll see each other at like the kickoff game. So like in Orlando, I'm throwing a tailgate for the FSU LSU game, and we'll have a bunch of guys come out to the tailgate and chop it up, and the fans just get a chance to hear guys just really break down the game at a high level. Like I don't pick on people who anybody can really, if you study this long enough, anybody can do it. It's just different when you're in a room full of guys who like that's what we did for a living. Like I can't. The reason why I'm into media is I already can't watch football for fun anymore. I stopped being able to watch football for fun a long time ago. When I'm watching, I'm trying to diagnose how do we beat this defense? What play is being called? What was this? What was that? What coverage they're in? So when we're at it, we were at the tailgate I threw for Oklahoma, and where some of us were out, we have TVs at the tailgate. So if you can't make it to the game, come to the tailgate and you can watch the game. And me, Leroy Smith, a couple of other guys, we're literally just breaking down the game. It's like listening to commentary with guys who were there. Probably should have recorded that mess. Probably could have made some money off of that, but
probably could have.
Yeah, but yeah. So that's but keeping in contact with guys, because the other side of it, Bobby died. I've had a teammate, Mario Henderson, who played for the Raiders. He passed a few years. He passed October of the quarantine year. Then I had a teammate, Todd Williams, who's from Bradenton. He passed, probably about 5-6 years ago. So, the older you get, people's dying has never died before. So if you don't get a chance to put eyes on them, you'll find yourself, just having memories of days past where you could have some more recent and current memories as well.
I can respect that.
Absolutely. I always found that I coach in the UK over here. My team's the Sandwell Steelers. I'm their defensive backs coach. I was a defensive coordinator elsewhere. Decided to go up a different level. We have divisions. So I'm in Division 1 at the moment, not Premier. I used to be in Division 2. And the one question everyone asked me is, how do you watch Bucs ball? And I went, I just have to get drunk and watch the game. Otherwise I'll sit there and take notes and I'll draw shit up and it would just drive me nuts. Obviously me and AJ, we tend to chop it up a little bit on the the end games. I was like, oh man, I don't know why they're doing cushion coverage. It drives me fucking nuts. I don't understand it doesn't make any sense. Why would you stand 10 yards off somebody when you've only got fucking 7 yards to defend? It just seems insane. But that's just me. I mean, my level is probably closer to high school level if it were to translate over to across the other side of the pond. Yeah, for sure, I usually have family around me, so I can I tend to try. If I focus on offensive football, I don't worry about the defensive football. If I focus on the defensive, because being a defensive-minded guy, that's when I'm like, I should have done this. Should have been that. Well, why didn't he go there? What? I just get, and now I've got to a point. It's like just forget about what they're doing. Just enjoy the game, and then maybe you can chop it up later.
James, I'm the same. I try my best to watch, especially with the Bucs, because when I see certain talented, when I'm down here in Virginia, so a few years ago I was helping be a coordinator and also like a running back conditioning coach with the school down here in Lorton. So for me, I like to ask my players and watch the best of their abilities, and I like to see what they do best. Now, some of the coaches, when they try to enforce their methods, I go, yeah, this isn't going to work. I know what you're asking, but this guy, what you're asking for, he'd have to damn near run like a 4.35. This guy runs like a 4.7. It ain't happening. Or they want to run like a certain. See, for me, I'm a spread guy. The reason why I like the spread because I've seen what the Bucs have on offense, and I know this person, the O.J. Howards of the world. Mm-hmm. I thought back then with O.J. Howard, you put him and Mike Evans at the opposite sides. Who gonna stop that? Especially in the red zone. Then you have Chris Godwin. See, that's what pissed me off is when you don't utilize the best to your players' strengths. When coaches get stuck in their ways, that's why I say sometimes you already know as a player, you be like, Coach, man, look, I got a career to think about, and I can't keep doing this because you think this is right. Like you said, if a team knows that a play isn't going to work, like in your opinion, what defense would you not want to, because you play running back, what defense would you not want to try to run an HB counter on?
Shoot, really, like even fronts are the ones that are the most difficult to do that. You run an odd front, there's going to be natural gaps, so you're going to have to over pursue, and then really what your guys who are getting up, the bigs are getting up on the linebacker, so there should be a better path on the backside, which is where you want to go. Especially as I teach running backs, don't go wide, you go even on the cut inside, so that backside A, backside B to C. Mm-hmm. That's how you go and do it. Something got to be open over there. If not, then we should have just ran stretch. Mm-hmm. But if you're running an odd man front, counter typically should be, or it depends on how that backside that backside D tackle is. If he's in a 1,
yeah,
and then you have the backside D ends in a 5, you have that natural gap that's right there. But especially if they're going note with a note, yeah, we're gonna tag up to the backer, have your guys pull, fake the stretch, come back up inside.
agreed. And see, I was the type, because I love the running back position myself, but everybody's style is different. But I'm the North and South guy. I'm gonna try my best, and me being 5'7", I'm going for your hips. I'm gonna run through you, because I don't believe in the juking too much, because that's where you lose the momentum, and that's why I think a lot of guys get their ankles hurt or people fall on them. Sometimes just fall forward. And that's what I like to teach my guys, especially the ones where, coach, I want to run like this person. Yeah, but you don't have Barry Sanders agility, boy. Don't do that. Don't play yourself. That's television. Those guys are at the highest level and they mastered it. You haven't. So do this. Do as I just trust me. And then I like to ask questions. Like, I would be the kind of coach where it's like, hey, let's compromise. Let's talk about what works, and let's talk about what doesn't work, and let's try it out. Now, if my method does work, then damn it, we're doing that. But if there's work, I go, okay. And that's what was frustrating me this season about the Bucs. I could clearly see. I don't know Byron as a person, so I'm not here to judge, but I go by the way you respond and how you handle criticism, and the way that he had condescending moments to some of the Bucs media. I was pissed, because I'm not, no disrespect. You're a player, but we can always be honest. It's like, Byron, the way that you carried yourself wasn't like you were the best player when you played. So it's okay to take some humility, but don't be condescending when people are asking questions. Like, hey, this isn't working, so why do you continue to do it? Well, we're going to continue to do this just because. That's not a good answer. And that doesn't even make you look good to other organizations. You know that you've been around. Organizations don't want to see a guy just go, well, we did it because we did it. Now you don't even have the media friendly kind of thing, or where it kind of makes you not intelligent looking. Like, okay. And Slick has said this best. You're an owner, James, and the season that the Bucs had, despite with all the talent, your questions are going to be, okay, why didn't you adjust to this? If you know Brady's not a mobile quarterback, why didn't you use more crossing routes? Why were you not allowing this to happen? And if he says, "Buh," then what do you you're gonna go, all right, bye.
Which is one of the funny things is that, like, if you look at any of those Patriots teams, they never had great runners. But if you really look at what Tom Brady was able to do, the short passing game was really their run game. So they were moving the ball with your quick slants, your shallow cross series, things of that nature. Tom Brady's biggest strength, with whether people want to believe it or not, is arm strength kind of diminishing, is his ability to get rid of the ball on time. So I think that's kind of where, again, but sometimes you get arrogant, and you talked about it, not adjusting to what it is that you have on the field. And I think sometimes coaches tend to try to force fit people and not adapt to not adapt their offense to what is currently available to them.
I got one point. I want to add here. So talking of what AJ, I mean, we did a post game show on this. We did a pre-game show bleeding into it, and it was the Buccaneers versus Pittsburgh Steelers, and they had literally every DB was out. They were hiring off the street. There was a guy who had a bit of gum on his shoe. He was hired. They had guys who were literally last year were 6th-round picks. That was their starting safety, their starting free safety, starting
corners,
and starting corners. There was nobody on there with any real note on their name. And the Buccaneers just ran and ran and ran and ran. And it was like, oh my God, why are we not taking advantage of the fact that they have no solid DBs? Isn't like, are we trying to set up the pass later and it's going to come then? But I don't think we need to, because we've got the firepower there. And I just remember me and you just being like, why are we just running into a front and just keep banging against a wall? And it was like literally the Buccaneers went, here's a wall, try and run through it. If we run through it, we might win.
Yes.
It's why people believe the script jokes earlier this year, because I get some things make you scratch your head, but It's just really coaches being stubborn. Like it's like you scouted something all week and you felt that there was a weakness and you know it's there, but they're not executing it. And you're like, well, we're gonna run it
because it's going to
we
happen
get
eventually.
yeah. And unfortunately, sometimes you run out of time. But you have to be. That's why when I always hear people say they got off of their script, and that's why a script ain't nothing but a guess. Like the first 20 plays is like so everybody writes out 20 plays, and you're guessing based upon past performance that this is what they're going to do. And you're getting information so that you can call the rest of the game. So like your script is a guess. If your guess was working better than you actually knowing what the hell is going on, maybe you're not really that good. Like it shouldn't be that. It's not. This isn't Madden. This isn't like, oh, I like this play. I'm going to pick this play, and there's a glitch. Like, no, you got to know what you're doing, and you have to adjust. But I know sometimes that to get to that level, it's kind of like being president. Like, if you really think about it, not arrogant you have to be to feel like you are the one person who can be in charge of the most powerful country in the world. Like you have to be arrogant beyond measure to feel like you should be the end all be all. To be in the NFL, you're talking about you have a better chance to get struck by lightning while you have the winning Powerball numbers than you do to make it to that spot and literally be a coach. So like your level of I know it's going to work because I got to do it my way is a little bit stronger than others, and sometimes that's what gets you in trouble. It's unfortunate, but that's all I can say for Byron, man. I hope he gets out of that because I want him to be successful. But you gotta like I heard this saying one time when we had a coach at my alma mater who wasn't doing very well, and his offensive coordinator wasn't performing at a high level. And my friend said that's when you got to go walk over to him and say, which one of us you trying to get fired, me or you?
Right.
Because you go get fired before me. I can promise you that. And that's where Todd has to go to him and say, hey man, we gotta get this together.
Absolutely. And I do love how sometimes certain professionals say, well, this is not how it works. It's like, well, the way that you're doing it ain't working at all. Right. Why not have some damn fun? Why not get out there and have your team practice something new, innovate, adjust? He knows. Slick is known. There were so many times where the Bucs, a damn crossing route, you have the players to do it. You have the speed. You have the Scotty Miller out there who runs a 4-3. A lot of linebackers don't want to cover that guy in the third or fourth quarter because they're so damn tired and bruised. Why do you have a guy like Fournette trying to run up the middle when sometimes he would hesitate? That's what would get me about Lenny. I bet Lenny, why are you hesitating? And you 6 foot and you got all this muscle. Barrel through the damn thing.
I love Lenny, but we used to call him wrong hole Lenny. Lenny is a blind dog in a meat house. Like it's like he's getting older now, which sucks. But it's like when he was younger, either the hole was there or he was going to try to make a hole. And his vision wasn't that great. And when I was telling people that year, I wanted Dalvin Cook. I actually wanted Dalvin Cook for the Bucs. I think Dalvin Cook coming and your guys when you have Jameis would have been a hell of a combination because of what Dalvin could do in the passing game as well as the run game. But his vision is some of the best, most elite vision that I've ever seen. He ran behind a lot of bad offensive lines at Florida State, but people thought they were good because he was just that good. Yeah. But that's a technique and a trait in of itself. You kind of can either see or you can't. But when you were 6 foot, I believe at the time, 230 for Leonard Fournette when he was coming out, and you're a 4'4" guy, like you can get away with a lot of things in college that you can't get away with. Because a lot of people don't even realize this when I tell them that the NFL and college are two different games because of the hashes. You can run the spread more efficiently in college because the hashes dictate alignment. Mm-hmm. So if you're spread out, if I widen you out, you got to base your defense on that. Mm-hmm. But those hashes are very close in the NFL. Mm-hmm. So
it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, and so that means that linebacker who you could have used a 2-yard split, you could have done a bunch of other different things. He gonna be right there no matter what. And now he's making his read a little bit quicker. And I think that's the problem when you have a back like Leonard Fournette, and that's why he doesn't really work as well in today's game for you. So, but again, when you have a Tom Brady, you have to understand that the running game is a short passing game for him. That's what it's been for most of his career. That's why they've always had the bruiser back because they only need him for short yardage situations.
Yes, their run game was just enough to be productive, to be dangerous, and that's fine because you don't always have to have the premier backs. Slick and I were talking about that right before you got on, James. Most of the teams in NFL history are not winning championships behind a running back. You need a quarterback. You need to have some offense, and then if you don't have an elite defense, you just got to have people that can do their job.
Yeah,
And that,
or you better have an elite ass defense. Like when you think about it, like that's a good running game and an elite defense will win you a lot of games, but your quarterback play has to take you over the top. The only times when we've really seen it in the modern game would be like a lot of people want to pick on the Bucs, but Brad Johnson actually had a really good. Brad Johnson actually had a really good couple seasons. Like
he did, and he also had Keenan McCardell and Keyshawn
Yeah.
and Allstott. So it wasn't like it wasn't like he was just empty. No.
Yeah.
There's
But the Ravens had that. The Ravens are the only ones that I've seen actually be able to make that just really work, where you have a quarterback that just. But even then, they play keep away. The quarterbacks aren't bad; they just don't turn it over, and they're able to move forward.
That's what you need. That's how it worked about 20 years ago. You could get away with doing that. Now, that ain't gonna work. It'll probably win you a playoff game. It's like that's how I kind of see how Tennessee play. Tennessee play with that kind of keep away quarterback. Good defense, a little bit of a smash mouth, and in a repertoire, when you get into the playoffs, you're running into good teams, and good teams tend to have good run defenses. And once they've sussed out your run defense, now you're relying on the quarterback to actually make plays. And if he can't, and your defense isn't strong enough to keep making plays themselves, then that's how you end up getting run over. Because a more balanced team is much harder to predict because their bread and butter is not just X amount of running plays. It's X amount of running plays and X amount of passing plays. So it makes you have to think multi-dimensional. You need to have width in your scheme as well as just having depth. You need to have guys who can play. Like you elaborated too that the hash marks. My current defense that we're running is all about the hash mark. We have an extra defender on the field side compared to the boundary side to make up for space. So it's all those little things. You put it all together, and I just don't see it happening these days where you can just take in a bruiser back, have a quarterback that doesn't turn it over, have a top 5 defense, and you're going to win a Super Bowl. It doesn't translate because you're going to meet somebody who's also got a top 5 defense, who has a better quarterback than you and has an average run game.
Right. And James, I'm gonna piggyback what you said about the Ravens. They also that year just happened to have the greatest tight end to play as well, and Shannon. So that was just enough to scare, like, where you go, okay, we can't fully blitz, even though I ain't gonna lie, Trent Dilfer is the worst quarterback in NFL history to win a Super Bowl. That's just me. And I say that because I remember seeing him play in Tampa, and I was like, good God, Dungy, what are we doing? Sean King was a breath of fresh air before Trent. No disrespect, but yeah, I think I agree with what you guys are saying though. But nowadays, let's be real. This is a happy passing league. And yeah, I'm glad. I want to ask you that. In your opinion, James, like with the way the league is with protecting everything, do you think that kind of sometimes takes away the glory days of what we saw in the early 2000s or even the 2010s?
The game is just changed. It's evolved, and a lot of it like it is more for entertainment purposes than it is that. I mean, nobody wants to see 10-6 football games. So like, I mean, I think I like a good physical. It's kind of like, so I'll use baseball. There's this group called the Savannah Bananas. It's basically the Harlem Globetrotters of baseball. It's an exciting brand of baseball that fills stands. They're going to score a lot of points. They're going to do the bat flips. They're going to do all the other different things that baseball purists hate. the problem is that's very entertaining. So when you kind of put that into football, what's entertaining? Seeing the ball go down the field, like seeing a guy beat a DB one-on-one. Those are the things that fans like. But what I do think is going to happen is in 5 or 6 years, everybody's going to be so they're going to have I say 10 years, they're going to have the linebackers set. They're going to have 185-pound outside linebacker / safety hybrid. Your Mike linebacker is going to be 200 pounds. And then somebody's going to say, you know what, I'm going to be innovative. I'm going to bring a fullback in, or we're going to go 3 tight end sets. And we're just going to smash everybody because everybody's body type is built for this spread. And now we're going to condense. And then what's going to happen is you're going to have more athletic bigs. So like the guys who would normally play your linebackers that are 6'3", 225, there's nowhere for them to play anymore. So they play a tight end and they can run with the wind. They may not have the hips to cover, but they can run. You don't believe me? Look at what Georgia's able to do. Georgia is the first team I've ever seen to be able to go, they can go something that's unheard of, 40 personnel if they want to. Just 4 tight ends out there and then if you bring in your bigs, they'll spread you out because all those guys run 4.6 or faster. And if you keep your skinny minis in there, they'll just condense and then just go punch you in the mouth. So I think that's some futuristic down the road type stuff. And I think the game is becoming, I don't want to say too safe. Too safe maybe is the wrong verbiage, but in its attempt to become safer, it's actually become more harmful and dangerous. And you're seeing a lot of soft tissue injuries that you never saw because you've got elite athletes that are trying to make split-second decisions while going 100 miles per hour. And that's where you're seeing the ligament damage. And eventually people are going to be able to like say, hey, we got to just I say all to say is I've never had a major injury playing full speed.
Agreed.
The only times I ever got hurt were when I was thinking and I wasn't going as fast as I could be. Because like it's not big hits after big hits in every game. You typically and if anybody doesn't believe me, I had to correct some people. The hits that don't look like they're hard are the ones that hurt more than the big hits. And see, was it DeMar Hamlin, that young man's name?
Yes.
Like, that hit looked like a regular, mundane, everyday hit, but he got caught on the chest at the right time, and those are the ones that really end up doing more damage. And you can't legislate those out of the league, out of the game. It's just part of it. But the big hits that make all the noise, that's plastic hitting plastic most of the time, and it looks bad, but it ain't that bad.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that. But sometimes, James, I think we're moving in a direction where the NFL is becoming too much of a narrative of whatever a team is, and that's what I don't like. See, I love the Steelers and Ravens back in the day, Smash Mouth, because it felt more authentic. As we said earlier, sometimes when certain things go a certain way, it gets scripted when the game is just too much high flying offense. I give you a perfect example. I'm not a big Marshawn Lattimore fan. I'm not. That's just because certain things that I think the league lets him get away with, because I've seen games where it's a high scoring game or Carlton Davis will do the exact same play that Marshawn Lattimore does, and they will call interference on Carlton because his name isn't as big. And that can take away the integrity of the game for fans because now they're like, okay, well, damn, because this guy was guarding him, and he made a stop. Now they're not gonna call it, or they won't. That's why I'm afraid. Like I like the fact where everybody was equal back in the day. You got hit, you got up, and you played. But nowadays, certain times of the game, you tap Mahomes the wrong way, you might be out of a job. You hit Kelsey the wrong way, and he gets up and cries, you're out of a job. And then the simple fact that they compare these greats to other guys is disrespectful. I think Kelsey's good. Is he Gronk? Not at all. Because one, Gronk can do both. Kelsey is Slick say, is a slot receiver. That's just, I agree. He's a big slot receiver. I don't see him truly being a true tight end. But the way the game is, he's exciting. But I would love to see a Kelsey try to play in the era of the 2000s with the Ravens and the Steelers, like with the Palomalus and the Jerry Porters and the Ed Reeds of the world. I don't think he'd go up the middle that easy.
But I think that goes with what James has just said about how the game's evolving, and that people like Travis Kelce, this whole like kind of a guy who can play a multitude of positions, such as playing the tight end position, being connected, and then playing disconnected, or even playing it almost at a one position, is starting to become popular now because these are big bodied guys who can just bully their way to the football.
I agree. Like it's a different game. That's why I've always I heard MJ was the one who said it the best. To compare greats is is irrelevant. It's not something that you should do because there's different rules. And you don't have a safety that's going to come in and split you in two coming down the middle. Like you don't even have guys like I remember one time I got hit running a flat route. Quarterback threw me the ball. DB was at cover 2. So when I reached out to get the ball, the DB was there. I could not see anything. The guy got all up under my stuff, and like I ran over and I punched my quarterback square in the mouth because it hurt. It hurt. Like, and if my position coach, he looked at my position coach, and my position coach was just like, "You shouldn't have threw him in a cut. Don't throw him into a hard corner, and you won't get punched." And I say that to say is the game is a little bit, but quarterbacks are sexy, man. So like you got to protect the sexy guys. Yeah. Everybody, they're the only ones that people let just run ragged or do whatever the hell it is they want to do. But again, I think when you start the way it's shifted now, the players are becoming more divas, especially the wide receivers. So they're the ones that are selling more. So you don't want it. I hate to say this because I really love football, but this is why if you look at, because I don't want to say it's a game because, again, that's disrespectful. Monopoly is a game. I can roll out of bed and play Monopoly whenever I want to. I can't roll out of the bed and go play in the NFL. But when you look at it as it's entertainment, everything kind of starts to come into play more. I'm not naive. I do believe they'll tell some guys slow the game down. I do believe they'll have some things where the referees will be like, all right, we're going to I'll put it like this: when you guys played the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, the Chiefs have been known for mugging wide receivers all year. And this was the first time that they called a lot of pass interferences on them that they would normally let those guys play. And were the refs wrong? No, like it was
it's within the confines of the games and the rules.
But you let them do this for so long that it completely takes you out of your game. So now you have to do something different. And I do believe that goes on because at the end of the day, you want the game to continue to move. And it's never been more popular than what it is right now. So to them, it's working. So
and it's bringing this in.
It's all about the money.
It's bringing this in.
Look at the last Super Bowl that was just played. A lot of people talk about the play that kind of set up the game and kind of finished it off, and they hadn't called many pass interferences until that thing. And the argument was, well, was it pass interference? Well, the answer is yes, it was pass interference. But had they allowed ticky-tacky stuff like that before all the way through the game? Yes. But the problem is they're referees, and referees will decide when they decide what they want to turn it on. And sometimes their eyes just work for a change.
What you all you can ask is if this is the way we're gonna play it. Like what I've told guys, don't leave it. One of the unwritten rules of football: don't leave it in the referee's hands. But what you ask the referees is, hey, is this how you're gonna call it? You're trying to get a gauge in the first 2 quarters, but really the first 3 quarters should set the tone so that the last quarter everybody understands this is how the game is going to be played. And it's the only time referees really get bashed is when they do something that's so contrary to what they've done in the first 3 quarters, and this is basketball too, to where people are like, all right, or if you're going to swallow your whistle, swallow the whistle. It's cool. Let them play. But but I think that's where, but I also believe, I don't think it's not scripted, but I do believe that referees have an idea of what they're going to do and what they're going to focus on. And different crew, but you also know different, like even in like some of your elite scouting reports, you get a scouting report of the referee crew. So like you know what these guys
do. The most?
in the percentage of the stuff. So like, but like in a good game, it should only be 20. It should be, you're looking at 20 flags
Yeah.
that are going to be thrown.
And you're right, and refs are human, and they look at certain people and behavior. Ryan Jensen stays getting targeted because they know he might start something. So the first thing they do is probably look and go, all right, let's see. But that's why I said I don't like certain ways the game goes sometimes, because now you're trying to do things to benefit someone else and go with the narrative, and that's not what football is for me anyway. So I can't speak for everybody, but for me, the best man wins. And if your Kelsey has a bad day, like the Super Bowl, I love to always bring it up. They let them play, and Levante and them just were all over him. And the same for Mahomes. That's that. Just, like, I think sometimes people don't like to accept that the big championships, Super Bowls, people always wanted to be a down to the wire. Sometimes the better team is just overwhelmingly better. Look what the Legion of Boom did to Peyton Manning. That was fun though, because sometimes if it just happens, if the team just get their ass beat,
I mean, it was a shocker, wasn't it? To be fair, and I think no one saw that one being the way it was. I think it was always in the realm of possibility, but for it to be so one-sided,
I didn't see that coming. I didn't see it coming. No, that game I thought was going to be down the wire, but I was shockingly surprised. Just like when the Bucs won their first Super Bowl, I think that's arguably the best defensive game I've ever seen. I think people were excited just to see what the Bucs defense was going to do after those interceptions. Sometimes that's why I say sometimes I think the offense, like the game today, is more benefiting to the offense. But let's go back to the defense. Watching defenses were fun too. So if they have a kind of balance, I think the league will be fine. But as you said, James, what do I know? I'm just a spectator. The big guys are in charge, so they don't care what I'm saying. They're saying you gonna pay and watch anyway, and I am, so I can't help it.
And that's what I always tell. Oh man, one of the most fun times. Again, 2017 was probably my most favorite time covering the Jags. That was when the guys decided to take a knee in London, and I made the comment, and I was right. Our fan base was bad. Like they were like that righteous anger. Like I'm like, yo, I'm like, okay, like things are happening. He called them all SOBs, and they but I said, you mean to tell me? And at the time I brought up, I think we were averaging 3 wins a season at that time. So you mean to tell me if the Jags make a playoff run, are really, really good, you're going to boycott. You're not going into those seats. And they're like, because they thought it wasn't going to happen. But I tell you, that Seattle game where we beat Seattle was one of the most packed atmospheres that I've ever, like every game was packed. Everybody forgot. And I always tell people, boycotts don't work for the NFL and for the professional sports leagues, because I know marketing deals and streaming deals. I happen to have one. Mine is for 5 years. Doesn't matter what anybody does. You don't have to watch. I could get 2 views per episode. That check cash, baby. They pay me every 6 months in lump sums. So whether you watch it or not, they're banking on over the course of 5 years, you're going to eventually watch it because they've signed 5-year contracts with the advertisers. And you don't get to just break those unless something truly bad happened. So the NFL signs these 10-year deals with ESPN and all these other guys, and they're just like, all right, you're going to get bored one day.
Yes.
And you're going to watch. Or now it's in your face. Like, you'll see the tweets.
You do leave the comments going, wow, the NFL's lost me as a fan. And you're like, so why are you still fucking commenting, dude?
Yes.
Go away. And that's
things done. That I don't like, I don't talk about. Like, you'll never hear me. I think actually kind of like his music. But some country music singer did something. If I came out and said, I don't like this, you lost, like, they're like, so what? You never bought an album. Or if you did, you don't get any money back because you already bought it. Like, and every time I tell them, if you click on NBC Stream, or you click on Amazon Prime on the Thursday night, just once. All you gotta do is do it once. It counts. It doesn't matter.
Exactly. when the Bucs lost against the Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs, I was butthurt. Like, I was like, man, I can't watch football for the rest of the season for the playoffs. What did I do next Sunday? All right. All right. Let me just. And I prayed that the
You want
Dallas
to watch
Cowboys.
someone lose, that's why.
Yes, exactly. I was like, look,
That's it.
Dallas, get that. I was like, Dallas, I hope your ass get beat. And when they got beat, I felt fulfilled and satisfied. I'm like, okay, good. I'm like, good. So yeah, you're right. It's one of those things where the NFL is banking, like you said, on you're gonna watch it anyway, especially diehard people who love the game. You can't give up the game. That's your passion. Oh, you'll be mad. You'll be all right. Look, have a beer and watch this game next week and some wings because that's what gets me, the beer and the
Like, you get them
wings.
on that flyover, they'll get the military out, and then everyone's happy again. It's that simple.
It's like
I
just
don't
like
want to be
college. You want to
asked, but
see
that's how it is.
you're banking on seeing the people, especially if you go to the games. Like most of these people have had these sections for years, and you know these people. It's like so you're only going to see them in the fall, and then you won't see them again until next fall. So you're going to go, you're going to hang out, and what happens is whether you like it or not, there is an emotional attachment to whatever your vice is, whatever your sport is. It could be a TV show, it could be whatever, but you have an emotional attachment to it, and whether you can say you don't care, but if you didn't care, the things we don't care about, we don't talk about. We just the scariest thing would be people leaving in Exodus and not saying anything, and everybody just starts watching pickleball. That would be
Yeah.
the only way to really affect them, and then people will shift their money and opportunities to other stuff. But it's truly America's game. And what makes it different than baseball is that it has embraced innovation and embraced change. And even the things that we'll say as old curmudgeons, they know they're going to keep us, but they're going to keep the next generation engaged by keeping with brands. The NBA did it with Jordan. We like a lot of, I'm not, whoever you think is your GOAT is your GOAT. But Michael Jordan was the first person that we were marketed to like. Like he had us drinking terrible Gatorade. Orange and yellow Gatorade are the two worst flavors. But he had us drinking it, singing songs like "Sometimes I Think That He Is Me," and like Mike. Everybody wanted to be like Mike.
Exactly.
And then they took that and other leagues replicated. Baseball hasn't been able to do it yet, and they lost their foothold. Football has done it the best of all of them, and that's why it'll continue to be the best league.
Oh, absolutely. And then here's the thing about Americans: we like violence. Americans like violence, Slick. We like it. We live it.
They're just as bad, don't worry.
Yeah, but it's just no. And then the beauty of football, and James, you can definitely do this. And anybody who plays backyard, when someone talks shit, you can. It's like, okay, I'm gonna see you on this next play. We love things like that. That's why we love we love to hate the Ramses of the world, because I remember the game in the playoffs, the Rams and the Bucs. As pissed off as I was when I saw Evans own Ramsey, I was ecstatic. I was like, that's what I'm talking about. I'm like, number one, corner my ass. And after that, Evans broke him, because then the next season, Stephon Diggs did it to him. So it's good to say Mike Evans broke Ramsey that day. And that's and I like things like that. That's the beauty of football, because when all it takes is one moment and it changes the whole history. Look at the Falcons. They have never been right since the 28-3 meltdown. Can't get right. That's what they should be called. The can't get right Falcons. And that's the beauty of football. We love the stories too that come up there. The Bucs, Brady wins the first Super Bowl in a home stadium in history during COVID. A team that came out of the ashes when we were nothing. You look, this is beautiful. That's football, and as you said, it ain't going nowhere. But to answer your question, James, no, MJ's the GOAT. That's there is no debate. MJ's the GOAT. MJ kept so many legends from winning. That's the biggest reason to me he's the GOAT. He kept he kept so many people. John Stockton, Malone, you name it. He kept legends from winning.
He caught the league with Magic Johnson. He beat Magic Johnson without an immune system, and he never beat Larry Bird. But at the end of the day, you can't. Winning is difficult. He won 6.
He won 6.
He won 6 out of the 15. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is my GOAT.
Okay.
Out of all of them, but I just and I just respect what I respect what Braun does because that's just a different level of excellence that I don't think anybody's paying attention to. To go to 10 straight finals, no matter how many you win, that's just hard to do. But I don't necessarily, I don't call people. I think every era is different. But
Right.
But yeah,
I think that's a very fair. That's a very fair point. It is all about the era because the game changes. Like we're going to have a Patrick Mahomes in 10 years' time could be shattering people's records across the league because he's just allowed to throw it a little bit more.
Even with Tom Brady. Tom Brady is a GOAT, but I really like Joe Montana. Like Joe Montana won 4 in a row. I mean, not 4 in a row. Excuse me. He was 4-0 in Super Bowls. I mean, he's one of the innovators. Why we throw the ball so much is because of what Bill Walsh and those guys were able to do. So, I always tell people don't take away from living in the moment, worrying about. Just enjoy the great. Like Pat Mahomes is something you got to see in real life. I can tell people that much. Like seeing him like when we played the Jags, I'm like, yeah, like he bum ankle moving around. I'm like, yeah, this isn't. You're not supposed to be able to do these things.
Right.
So like, I'm not gonna get into the is he better than Brady as he continues to progress. I'm like, I just want to enjoy Patrick Mahomes, and I enjoyed Brady because Brady's story was dope because he came out of he was a 6th-round pick.
Yeah.
But anyways, though, man, I just realized how late it was. I got kids still in school. Man, I could talk football all day, man. I appreciate y'all having me on, though, man. Like like I said, I cover the NFL, in particular the Jags. I just really like football. Football did a lot for me.
No, thank you for your time. That was awesome. And thank you for giving us an insight, not just only from a player's perspective, but someone who is in the journalism part of it as well. And again, man, come back another time. We love talking about football too.
Hey,
we can talk about the Jags too.
December 24th, guys. Bucs and Jags. We got to have you on before.
Yes.
Yeah, please have me on. I won't be in. I think we're in Tampa. We're playing Tampa, right?
That's right. I think you are.
Yes, Raymond James.
I'm gonna try to see if we can have if I could get the fam to celebrate Christmas in Tampa. I actually like Tampa. I'm gonna go to Channel Side.
Tampa's awesome.
But yeah, man, definitely have me on, man. I gotta tell my guy Keith, I go where I'm masked, so I have no problem hopping on. So
thank you.
Man, we'll sort something out. We'll definitely get a piece going.
Yeah, and tell people where they can find you and any future projects you got coming up, my man.
So the biggest thing is I tell people right now I'm trying to continue to grow our YouTube channel. It's at Den Media Group on YouTube. Go check that out. We have we're gonna have more shows come on Den Media Group, but Big Games BS is the big one right now. Once we get to 3,000 subscribers, we're going to actually give away $300 live as we do the show. So each time we hit that $1,000 milestone, 1,000 sub milestone, we give away money. And then outside of that, I have a book bag drive. This will be my 4th annual book bag drive. We're doing one in Orlando, Jacksonville, and Tallahassee, trying to raise money for 3,600 book bags. There's each book bag is $36. And if you go to @BigGameJames_36 on Twitter, it's my pin suite. And you can also see a video of what one of the book bag drives look like. They get a book bag, and each car gets about a week's worth of groceries. So we're feeding and helping people have supplies to be educated. So those are my 2 things.
Wow, that's blessings, man. Thank you for that, James. That's awesome.
But, yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yes, no worries, man. We'll catch you soon.
Take care. And I know, Slick, it's getting late for you over there.
It's 4:30 in the morning, brother.
And I'm going to wrap it up here, guys. Remember, please, Bucs Report. Typically, right now, we're going to be on Wednesdays, the Aftermath. Check us out, 9:30.
My fault.
No fault here. It's all good. It's Wednesday. It's the middle of the week, so you ain't got nothing else to do anyway out there, Buc fans. This is Buc Football. And also, catch my video that I just posted about what happened to O.J. Howard. It's really
what happened to O.J. Howard.
Yeah, it's a really nice subject, and then you'll learn some things that I break down. So check that out. And then also, if you want to turn up in style, I got the merch right here. You go to my Instagram page, AJ Turner, Sticks of Fire. That is Native American for Tampa. So, yes, we will catch you guys another time. Thank you again for tuning in. And always, Slick, the British guy who stay fly, always on standby, one who meets the eye. We'll holler at you later.
Oh my lord. I'll highlight you soon, brother.
All right,
No
take
worries.
care of yourself, my man.
Okay, and you, brother. I'll catch you soon.
Go Bucs.
Go Bucks. Okay, guys, that's the end of the show. Thank you for tuning in. It's much appreciated. Thank you for James Coleman for popping on and talking a little bit about the Jacksonville Jaguars that he covers, and giving a bit of his insight to his life in college sports, with FSU and that rivalry between the Gators and Florida State. So thank you for coming on, and thank you for everyone in the comments. Sorry if we didn't get through them enough, but there's always next week. So next week we'll hopefully hear some more news about Mike Evans. Hopefully he'll put pen to paper, and we'll be talking about how much money the Buccaneers might have in the future, and potentially what this really means for the Buccaneers, how long they will have Mike Evans for. Till then, Bucks on me, Bucks on free. 1, 2, 3, go Bucks.